All right, everyone, get ready because today we're going deep, deep into the world of LLMs. You know, those large language models that seem to be popping up everywhere.
They are everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you want to know how those things, how do they go from like mountains of data to those really impressive chatbots that you're seeing?
Yeah.
We're breaking it down into 3 stages. We're going to look at, first of all, like building that basic LLM. Then we're going to train like this foundation model.
Right.
And then finally fine-tuning it for a specific task.
Yeah, it's a fascinating journey.
It is.
And a lot of it really does just come down to scale.
Scale, huh?
Oh,
So it's
yeah.
not just about like fancy algorithms.
Yeah.
Let's start then with stage 1.
Yeah.
Building that basic LLM. What are like the core components? What do we need to even get started?
Well, first and foremost, you're going to need data. And I'm not just talking about your average spreadsheet.
Right.
We're talking massive amounts of text data. Like think entire libraries digitized, mountains of code, basically the whole internet.
Wow. There are data sets out there, like the Pile comes to mind, which clocks in at a massive 825 gigabytes.
825 gigabytes, I can barely fit like my vacation photos on my hard drive.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing it's not just about quantity here, right? You can't just feed an LLM any old text and expect it to, write a symphony.
You're absolutely right, yeah. It's like baking a cake, right? You wouldn't just throw in a handful of dirt just because it adds to the weight.
Right, yeah.
The data needs to be cleaned. It needs to be deduplicated. It needs to be carefully filtered. You want to make sure that the LLM is learning from high-quality, relevant information.
So data, that's our first ingredient. What's next on this LLM recipe?
So now we need a way for the LLM to actually understand the relationships between words, to kind of grasp the context like we do.
Okay.
And that's where something called the attention mechanism comes in.
Attention mechanism. Sounds intriguing. Break it down for me. Okay, so think about a sentence like, the trophy wouldn't fit in the suitcase because it was too big. You and I instantly know that it refers to the trophy, not the suitcase.
Right, basic grammar.
Right. But that's not so obvious for a machine.
I bet.
So the attention mechanism allows the LLM to kind of focus on the relevant parts of the sentence to figure out these connections.
I see.
Technically, this is implemented using something called transformers, which uses complex mathematical matrices to weigh the importance of different words.
Transformers, matrices, now we're getting into the nitty-gritty. So the LLM is starting to see language not just as like a string of words, but with like a sense of how those words relate to each other.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the final piece of this puzzle then?
So the last ingredient is the architecture. This is basically the blueprint of the LLM.
Okay.
And this is going to dictate the model's complexity, its potential capabilities. Imagine choosing between building a compact car or a monster truck. Both will get you from A to B, but their power and fuel efficiency are going to be vastly different.
So with LLMs, bigger architecture usually means more processing power.
Exactly. So for example, GPT-3, one of the most famous LLMs out there, has a staggering 175 billion parameters.
175 billion.
That's like having a superhighway of information flowing through its digital brain.
That's a lot of lanes on that highway.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got our ingredients, massive amounts of clean data, the attention mechanism to kind of understand context, and the architecture to determine the scale of our LLM. We've prepped our recipe, so to speak. What happens next?
Now comes the real magic. Training the LLM to turn those raw ingredients into a powerful foundation model.
Okay, so we've got all of our LLM ingredients. We've prepped them. They're ready. It's time to bake this thing, right?
Right.
You mentioned training a foundation model.
Yes.
What does that actually involve?
So this is where things get really computationally intense. We're talking about a process called the training loop, where the LLM essentially learns from this massive data set that we've assembled.
A training loop sounds kind of like boot camp for AI.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Walk me through it.
Okay, so imagine feeding the LLM chunks of text, like sentence by sentence.
Okay.
And its task is to predict the next word in the sequence, kind of like a supercharged autocomplete.
Okay, so it's trying to guess the next word.
Exactly.
But I'm guessing it doesn't always get it right.
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning.
Of course not. No, it makes mistakes. It stumbles just like we do when we're learning a new language.
Right.
But here's the key. Each time it gets it wrong, the LLM adjusts its internal parameters, those billions of connections,
right,
to improve its prediction for the next round.
So it's like getting feedback and course correcting with each attempt.
Yeah.
A digital learning curve.
Exactly. Exactly.
Very cool.
And this loop, this cycle of prediction and adjustment, it happens millions, even billions of times.
Wow.
It's a computationally demanding process, often taking weeks or months on very powerful computers.
Really?
Yeah, for models like GPT-3, we're talking millions of dollars in computing costs just for the training phase.
Wow, that's some serious digital heavy lifting.
It is.
But how do we know if the LLM is actually learning, if it's getting smarter with each loop? I mean, do we just have to take its word for it?
Not at all. Not at all. So we have ways to measure its progress, to evaluate its performance.
Okay.
One key metric is something called perplexity.
Perplexity.
Yeah.
That sounds, well, perplexing. What is that exactly?
So in simple terms, perplexity measures how confused the LLM is when predicting the next word.
Okay.
A lower perplexity score means it's becoming more confident, more accurate in its predictions. Think of it this way. You're reading a text in a foreign language you're learning. High perplexity means you're constantly scratching your head, unsure what's coming next. As you learn the language, your perplexity decreases.
So low perplexity, the LLM is like starting to really understand the nuances of language, like it's getting fluent.
Precisely.
Okay.
But we don't just rely on perplexity. We also use benchmark data sets that test specific skills. It's like putting the LLM through a series of exams.
LLM exams, love it.
Right.
What kind of subjects are we testing?
Well, so we might use a data set like MMLU, which stands for Massive Multitask Language Understanding, to gauge its knowledge across various fields like math, history, science.
Oh, wow.
Or we could use something like Human Evil, which specifically tests its coding abilities.
Okay.
The idea is to see how well it performs on tasks that require real understanding, not just pattern matching.
So not just spitting out grammatically correct sentences, but we're looking for genuine comprehension.
Right.
Okay, this is all incredibly fascinating, but I have to ask, what if you don't have, like, months or millions of dollars to spend training an LLM from scratch?
Yeah.
Are there any shortcuts?
That's a great question, and luckily the answer is yes. So think of it like baking a cake. Sometimes you want to go all out, make everything from scratch, but other times you just need a quick and easy solution, like a cake mix.
A cake mix for LLMs. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So in the world of LLMs, these cake mixes are called pre-trained weights.
Okay.
And these are essentially models that have already gone through that grueling training process on a massive data set.
Oh, well.
So instead of starting from zero, you can leverage these existing models and just fine-tune them for your specific needs.
So it's like starting with a base layer of knowledge and then tailoring it.
Exactly.
Okay, so what are some of the most popular pre-trained mixes out there?
Well, there's a number of great options. Llama 2, BERT.
Okay.
These models have been trained on huge amounts of data, and they provide a fantastic starting point for a wide range of applications. It's a game changer for smaller teams who might not have the resources for a full-blown training cycle.
Right, right. So by the end of this stage, we've either gone through the intense training loop ourselves, or we've smartly used a pre-trained model as our shortcut. What do we have at this point? Is our LLM cake ready to be served?
Not quite. What we have now is what we call a foundation model.
Okay.
So it's learned a vast amount about language, but it's still a generalist.
Okay.
Think of it like a bright college graduate with a lot of potential, but without any specialized skills.
Okay, so a foundation model is like our blank canvas. We've got this general-purpose LLM, and now we need to mold it, refine it for specific tasks.
Exactly.
This is where the real customization happens.
Exactly. And that brings us to the final stage of our journey, fine-tuning.
Ooh.
This is where we take that foundation model and turn it into a specialized tool ready to tackle real-world challenges.
Okay, so we've built our foundation model, our bright-eyed college grad, ready to enter the workforce.
Right.
But as you said, they need some, specialized training.
They do, yeah.
This fine-tuning stage, this is where we really get to unleash the power of LLMs, right?
Absolutely. This is where things get really, really interesting.
Okay.
So with fine-tuning, we can actually mold our LLM to perform a really wide range of tasks. It's like giving our graduate-specific job training, right? Equipping them with the tools and knowledge to excel in a particular field.
I like his analogy. So what kind of job training are we talking about here? We're like some popular fine-tuning techniques.
Okay, so one common approach is to create what we call a classifier.
Good.
So let's say you want to build a tool that can analyze customer reviews and determine if they're positive, negative, or neutral.
Sentiment analysis. Super useful for businesses.
Exactly. So to fine-tune for this, we would feed our foundation model a data set of reviews that have already been labeled with their sentiment.
Okay.
And the LLM then learns to associate specific words and phrases with positive, negative, or neutral sentiments, allowing it to classify new reviews with remarkable accuracy.
So it's all about recognizing patterns and applying that knowledge to new data, like teaching the LLM to read between the lines.
Exactly.
What other specialized skills can we kind of equip our LLM with?
So another really exciting area is building personal assistants.
Okay.
Think chatbots that can provide helpful information or even complete tasks.
Cool.
And for this, we use a technique called instruction fine-tuning.
Instruction fine-tuning, what does that involve?
So it involves giving the LLM clear instructions and examples of desired responses.
Okay.
So let's say we're building a chatbot for a tech support website. We could feed it examples like, user says, I can't connect to the Wi-Fi.
Right.
Assistant responds, I understand. Let's troubleshoot this. Can you tell me what kind of device you're using?
So we're teaching it not just to understand language, but to respond in a helpful and a human-like way.
Yeah,
It's like we're shaping its personality.
that's a great way to put it.
Wow.
It's about crafting a natural and engaging user experience.
This is incredible. It feels like with fine-tuning, the possibilities are almost endless. You can customize an LLM for virtually any task imaginable.
You're absolutely right. And what's really exciting is that with open source models and these fine-tuning techniques, LLM development is becoming increasingly accessible.
That's great.
It's no longer just the domain of massive tech companies with vast resources. Smaller teams and even individuals can now build really impressive LLM-powered applications.
That's amazing. So it's democratizing access to this incredibly powerful technology.
It is.
As we wrap up this deep dive into the world of LLMs,
Hmm.
what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
Well, I think the biggest takeaway is that building an LLM is a journey, right? A multi-stage process that starts with, raw data and culminates in a specialized tool that can perform incredible feats.
Right.
It's, a testament to the power of human ingenuity and the remarkable advancements in AI.
Well said. It's been a fascinating journey from those mountains of data to those, clever chatbots we're starting to see everywhere. You've really demystified the world of LLMs for us. I'm sure our listeners are buzzing with ideas and maybe even a little bit of awe.
I hope so. The potential of LLMs is truly vast, and we're only
Yeah.
just beginning to explore its applications. It's an exciting time to be in this field, and I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Me too. And to our listeners, if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, don't stop here. Go explore, experiment, and maybe even build that next groundbreaking LLM application. Until next time, keep diving deeper.